Evening, everybody. So now we are starting the session. First of all, I would like to thank everybody who has taken time out to join us today. On behalf of Vihan Technologies and Intel, we would like to thank all the participants and we appreciate your time and your interest in the subject. I'm Somraj Bhattacharjee. I'm part of Vihan Technologies, and today we have an esteemed panelist and a group of discussions between some speakers who really know the subject very well. And the session will be very, very interesting and invigorating. And hopefully, all of us will be able to take away a lot from the session today. So, while starting the session, I would like to briefly touch upon the importance of the topic today. As we all know and understand that COVID is everywhere, it's all around us, people are suffering, and the virus is on the rampage, so as to say. So the most important thing for us right now is to understand how can AI really help in this scenario, and how can AI help in addressing the problem of COVID-19 in a very, very effective manner, especially in working environments where it's a closed environment, people are interacting, especially in places like restaurants, in hospitals, in hotels, in office spaces, in public places. So broadly, anywhere where there is human interaction and people are interacting in a closed environment. So that this is the basic agenda and topic of discussion today. We have with us from Vihant Mr. Anupji Prabhu, who is the CTO and director at Vihant Technologies. So he will be the first speaker today, who will basically be talking about the various aspects of the subject. We are also very thankful and honored to have Mr. Dandapani from Intel India, who is the director of sales. He will also bring in his rich and varied experience and vast knowledge of the subject matter by introducing some very interesting topics. And he will also be talking a bit about the transition from Industry 1.0 to 4.0. He will try to also bring about a deep dive into the data ecosystem in India. And also, he will be talking about different cross-industry applications in consumer, finance, health, retail, government, transportation, and so on. Also, when this session gets over, which should be in the next 1 hour, we would encourage all the participants to kindly come up with questions. The best way of addressing the questions today is if you could just drop in your questions in the chat box given below. Uh, Me and Payal, who is my co-host, will be addressing all the questions and we'll be taking it up for the perusal of both the guest speakers. Without any further ado and any delay, I would now like to introduce Mr. Anupji Prabhu, a brief about his background, and so that we can all know who he is, and it will help all of you to understand the subject better. Mr. Anupji Prabhu is the CTO, co-founder, and director at Vihan Technologies. He is responsible for aligning the company's technical competence with emerging trends and futuristic technologies. He founded Vihan Technologies after a successful stint at Mobile Eye Vision Technologies Limited, which also happened to be a technology startup in Israel, and he spent a considerable time with IBM India Research Lab. Mr. Prabhu holds a bachelor's and master's degree in technology from IIT Delhi. And now I would like to hand over to Mr. Prabhu. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Somraj. Thank you for a kind introduction. I would like to welcome everybody to this webinar today. So good evening or good morning, based on wherever you are from at this point. So I was not originally planned to make this presentation. My colleague and co-founder Kapil was supposed to have been doing this. However, due to some health issues, I have to do it on his behalf today. So so he would have been more engaging and been able to put forth more viewpoints. But I will try my best to keep you entertained in the meanwhile. I'll just start the presentation. Yeah, so is the screen visible to everybody?
It was Anup. Now it has gone. So if you can share it again. Yeah, it's good now.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just give a very small brief about Rehan, though Somraj has covered some parts of about us. So Rehan was originally founded in 2005. It was incubated from IIT Delhi as a startup with faculty members and alumni from IIT Delhi. So we've had 15-year history so far. And over the years, we've grown to a team of about 250 people with 7 offices globally and having 2 factories and 13 service locations in different parts of the globe. Some of the global markets where we are present are shown on the infographic. Some of the key technologies which form part of our solutions and products are, of course, AI-based analytics is one key aspect. But apart from that, so there are also others like vehicle and baggage scanning and OCR, which also form part of some of the key solution offerings that we have. Just a very small brief on some of the technical mentors and advisors that we have. So all of these advisors are or have been faculty at IIT Delhi at some point of time, and some of them still continue. So as you can see, some of them they work in the area of artificial intelligence, whereas others have a more varied interest areas. And this multidisciplinary aspect has also helped us shape some of the solutions that we have, on offer today. While the focus of the presentation today is only on how AI shapes the technologies and the solutions in the post-COVID world for today. The background from the other aspects as well as the hardware elements have helped us significantly over the years. Without much ado, I'll jump on to the subject matter today, which is the Behant AI platform for advanced video analytics processing. So at the core, the Behant AI platform has multiple processing primitives which it offers. The first amongst that being people and object detection. Then of course tracking of these different objects and people in order to figure out their trajectory and to maintain a unique representation across time. Then comes being able to identify the pose of these objects and the people, including the different people in the scene across multiple cameras as well. Plus classification of the areas of interest, including these could be either objects or these could be classification of let's say body parts of people which are performing certain actions, identification of the actions by being able to analyze the specific interaction of the different body parts, and in some cases also object interactions as well. So all of these basic primitives are provided by the AI platform at its core, which then enables a lot of use cases across various industries. This is a more textual representation of the same, but so the AI platform is capable of processing video and analyzing analytics for a variety of use cases like face mask and social distancing, hygiene maintenance and safety gear and monitoring, and as well as various SOP practices which can be very clearly identified in the field of view of a camera. All of these can be very easily and ideally identified by the AI platform, and solution-specific software suites can be very easily deployed by leveraging the core primitives of the platform, including the object detection, recognition, pose identification, etc. That was covered previously. So some of the specific use cases where we have deployed these include so one key aspect being COVID analytics, which was essentially detection of face mask and social distance detection across video cameras, either within premises or the or CCTV cameras deployed for smart cities, etc. The second specific use case being restaurant and hygiene analytics, and in this specifically, whether the maintenance of the SOPs, including hygiene aspects of the staff in the kitchen, etc., are being maintained, like whether are they wearing mask, headgear, gloves, is hand wash happening as per prescribed standards, etc., and corresponding compliance reports where they are needed. Just to capture at the top level, the platform provides capabilities of object detection, tracking, etc. And in addition to these primitives, so the use cases, industry-specific use cases, can be easily co-created along with the domain experts very easily by leveraging the underlying platform. The system also has a lot of provisions for data visualization, including trend charts, graphs, heat maps, as well as other visualization elements, plus some built-in reports which are made available as part of the basic installation itself. The ability to run the system completely at the edge makes it very flexible for us to easily deploy it at a multiple site and multi-location scenario, even in the absence of very strong networking. Of course, depending on the deployment scenario, the same can be run on a cloud infrastructure as well. And monitoring can be done either locally, where the systems are deployed, or a hierarchical multi-level monitoring is possible from a centralized control room also, depending on the scale and structure of the organization that is deploying the applications. Some of the some application specific use cases which are targeted by this platform have been for traffic monitoring, hospitality, industrial safety, etc. And some of the use cases include things that some of which we described earlier, like social distancing, mask detection, gloves, hand wash. So traffic monitoring was one area which we have been working on for quite a long time. We have recently, sort of packaged our AI expertise that we have gained from traffic monitoring projects over the last few years, and have been able to successfully deploy it to other areas, being industrial safety, hospitality being the first two that we have targeted. Plus, of course, with the help of domain experts and especially some of the people in the audience today, whom we are expecting to hear from with respect to some of the new use cases, where standardized SOPs can be easily monitored, we should be able to target many new use cases very easily with this platform. So the application areas are immense, including a lot of public places, private buildings, hotels, restaurants, manufacturing, malls, shopping, etc. So anywhere where any public or private facility where a lot of actionable events happen, which are captured in the in the field of view of a CCTV camera, can actually be easily monitored, especially where there are specific actions which depict certain kinds of events that are either supposed to happen or should not happen. Some of the industry verticals where these have been targeted for have been, so one is uh, hygiene and safety gear compliance for monitoring people in crowded environments within private places, thermal temperature screening, including body temperature monitoring, and the third being smart analytics and detection of face mask and social distancing. Just to give a very small sneak peek into the aspects that we have for hospitality. So we have analytics as part of the platform that enables use of the AI system to detect mobile usage, detection of whether or not people are wearing hairnet, social distancing, face mask, gloves, and hand wash. So all of these are enabled by separate classifiers fine-tuned to these specific modules, and the platform provides the backend infrastructure to enable a very easy configuration of the same for the use of restaurant managers, so that they get a platform to monitor as well as also manage the utility and efficiency of their resources. Some behavioral activities which are not easily captured by very simple AI running on based on single video frames, like usage of mobile phones as well as hand wash detection, etc., which are more events in time as well as include interaction of multiple objects, are also being made available in this platform. So these are some sample snapshots of the events and incidents which are detected in this. The suite also provides dashboard and metrics for visualization, notifications through SMS, email, and an online dashboard for both the managers as well as the operators of the system. So another use case I would just like to briefly touch upon is COVID analytics, which provides for a suite of solutions for mask detection as well as for social distancing detection. So using the same platform and enables the detection in a camera field of view, whether people are wearing face mask or not, and alerts are provided on a easy to use interface similar to this. Multiple people, up to 6-7 people, can be easily detected in the same field of view in an indoor environment. In the outdoor environment, the field of view becomes even larger. For reliable detection, good lighting is sort of optimal for both the kinds of analytics that are being discussed here, whether it be mask detection or for social distancing. Social distancing again can be considered applicable both in the indoor and the outdoor scenario. In both cases, the kind of alerts and the operator interaction with the system is very similar. There is an easy to use interface through which current alerts as well as previous historical records can be easily accessed. One more application that I would like to highlight today is Febrii, which basically is a suite of solutions for temperature screening at entry points of buildings and other places. So it employs a thermal camera to detect the body temperature of people, along with having components of face mask and social distancing detection. On detecting any sort of abnormal event, including elevated temperature or people not wearing masks, alerts are generated. Some of the salient features of Febrii include forehead temperature detection, mask detection, and the key point here being that this is all non-intrusive and completely non-contact detection happening, as people are walking through the field of view of the camera. So there is no need for people to stop while being monitored or screened. It uses a dual thermal and vision camera, and makes use of a black body, which is essentially a calibration object for the thermal camera in order to get a constant temperature reference. The convenient deployment and high throughput ensures that it can be deployed in a wide variety of scenarios. This is an application schematic of how the system can be deployed. Again, the kind of alerts and report management is very similar as to the previous alerts and the use cases that were described earlier. So yeah, so the last point I would like to touch upon is the multi-level and the hierarchical nature of the monitoring. So the platform offers the ability to run at the edge multiple analytics on different kinds of cameras. So in one case, one complex or an office premise might be having a thermal detection camera at the entry point, and other CCTV cameras within the premises might be configured to detect no mask or social distancing only. So all of these can be networked together, and all the reports and the management of these systems can be done in a very hierarchical manner at a CMS, which could either be located in the same office, or for organizations having multi-locational facilities, they could also be monitored from a completely different location in a very easy to use hierarchical manner. Reports and alerts are also available both in a mobile as well as in a web-based fashion for easy management. So, yeah, so that brings me to the final part that I would just like to summarize the key aspects of the solution that we are sort of highlighting today. The AI platform provides a wide variety of AI primitives which allow easy deployment to new use cases where the monitoring of the SOPs and the productivity factors can be captured by the identification of key actions or activities. So all such standard use cases can easily be detected by this system, and the deployments can be easily tuned for new industries as well. So we would welcome your comments and questions on other use cases beyond the ones that we have provided or that we have shown here. The analytics are all modular in the sense that for a particular camera, it is up to the end user to choose how many analytics they want to run on a particular camera and in which area of the camera. So let's say, for example, one part of the camera could be running one analytic, and the other side of the camera could be running a different analytic. And the post-event analytics and reporting also makes for very easy analysis and a fine-tuned representation and key takeaways of using the system and benefits being provided can be had at a very high level for easy information dissemination. And yeah, so that brings me to the end of my presentation here. And over to you, Somraj.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anup. It was a very, very interesting session, and really very, very interesting aspects were brought out by you. So we have already received a number of questions from some of our guests today, and we would like to take them up towards the end of the session. So now, moving on to our next esteemed panelist. Today we have with us Mr. Bhaskar Dandapani from Intel India. Mr. Dandapani currently is the Director Sales of Intel India. He has over 24 years of experience in sales, business development, and distribution across the telecom, industrial, automotive, and different sectors. While at Intel India, Bhaskar has been responsible for driving innovation and brand leadership across Intel's IoT business, computing, and sales. Currently, as Director Sales, he is responsible for handling sales across client computing, IoT, data center, and network storage business units for India. Prior to this, Bhaskar was a director for the IoT business at Intel, leading to the IoT Billings Charter with focus on growth in the IoT design and development ecosystem. Having worked for more than 2 decades in business development and sales with a proven track record on building teams to drive stronger and deeper customer engagement, Bhaskar brings a rich insight from the Indian markets across domains, and he has been a pioneer in driving technology adoption in both existing and new markets. Mr. Bhaskar earlier worked with Freescale Semiconductors for close to 10 years. He is an electronics and communications engineer by profession. Mr. Bhaskar, I would now like to hand over the forum to you, and we look forward to your opinion, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Somraj, for the wonderful introduction. Yeah, hopefully you're all able to see my slide. And when I'm presenting, I can't see you. So I've requested my colleague, Sunil, to ping me if there is something going wrong. Okay, so don't mind if suddenly a Skype window pops up in my screen. So is my voice audible, or you have to decrease or increase it?
It's good, Bhaskar.
Okay.
We can clearly hear you.
Okay, Tim, thank you. So I'm here to talk about what is a kind of a transformation we are seeing right now, and then how India is looking like at the data as a new oil concept, and then why AI is important, and then some of the observations from our business development eye, from Intel side, how it is impacting our day-to-day activities, and then try to give some examples across the verticals. Okay, let's move on. So as all of you know that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So when I presented this slide last time, someone asked me, so when you say industrial revolution, it's only for industry. What do you mean by that? So it is an industrial revolution cutting across all walks of life. I think that's how we should put it. In my opinion, it is a once in a generation shift. It's happening. So if you're looking at the history of it, how steam revolutionized, how electricity revolutionized our life, and then how computing revolutionized in the third generation, cutting across all walks of life, which we never imagined, right? And same way, the intelligence everywhere concept in industrial 4.0 revolution, fueled by connected devices, is going to change, or is already is changing our life dramatically here, right? And we all are in this together. Okay, when I say all are in this together, one is a transformation, and also in this pandemic situation. And before I get into further, so I wish you all safety and a great health with you and your family. Like to reflect on that current situation, what we are in. Okay. So when we talk about industry 4.0 revolution, connected devices, if that is going to do the definition for the next generation revolution, so how are we doing in India? Okay, last 7 or 8 years or so, with the consistent investments coming in the infrastructure, we have seen some of the great infra happening in India, be it 4G revolution or connecting fibers across the villages and universities and colleges, GST, or digitizing 1.3 billion people in the name of Aadhaar. Everything, infrastructure, edge, connectivity, digitization, there's all around push from the entire ecosystem, including government, is helping in India to see digital transformation, which we have not seen it in the last 1 decade or so. Okay, for an example, from the status of 2018, where we had a connected devices of 350 million, we are looking at more than 2x, which is 850 connected devices we are looking at it. Be it smart metering, be it a connected vehicle, or it could be banks moving towards automated kiosk, everything is included here. And the digital transaction, ours is a 1 trillion economy approximately. They expected to grow 6x. Just look at our own walk of life. How many of us move towards mobile wallets and QR code scanning from a typical cash and carry business? Okay, so thanks to pandemic, in a way, positive side of it. So this could have been already accelerated, right? And what kind of an impact the 4G had in India market is that from a 2.3 petabytes consumption, we are expected to do 20,000 petabytes. That's the future. But currently, what happened from a 13th or 15th position in terms of consuming mobile data, we moved flat 18 months to number one position. So all service provider in the US put together is equal to one Reliance Jio, what we have here. And then the positive side effects of it, how many of us are using the data more efficiently, right? This is the disruption happening in India. And then coupled with the ecosystem is something is going to catapult us to the future of the generation change, which is we are the third largest startup ecosystem, have 25 tech-driven unicorns, with adding factors that we are the second largest ecosystem in software and the youngest demographic in India. It's only going to accelerate the adoption of technology in the country. And with 1 billion digital UPI transaction per month, it's already augmenting our argument of how the digital transaction is shaping this country. And by end of this year, 60% of the services will be offered by the hybrid service provider here. So coupled with disruption and the ecosystem what we have and the infrastructure what we have seen in this company, definitely we are already into the data-led era in India. Okay, why AI is important? Okay, um, the data says that over half of the world's database is created in the less than 2 years of it. Yet, um, the important factor is that only 2% of the data is analyzed. So this is where AI is coming in. Okay, data which is analyzed, it's of no use to anyone. So how do we get into a meaningful data and make some sense out of it? With the current pandemic situation, how things are going to get automated, it is something is interesting, and this is why AI is more important in analyzing the data. Okay, we talked about the difficult situation. Okay, but if somebody is looking how the future is going to look like and how it is going to shape up, there is no doubt everything is going to be digital henceforward. Okay, let us look at some of the things happening around us. Okay, in the consumer, already you don't have to wait in queues anymore. So the Autobots, virtual clients have already come into the picture to ease your customer service or customer experience zone of it, right? Banks have moved into digital sales, and then they're giving more flexible payment side of it. Talk about health. So doctors are doing telemedicine, telehealth check with some relaxation on the regulation. They're able to do it. And now people are thinking about how can we put more infra and more analytics where people can be diagnosed remotely. A country like India, where we have 600,000 plus villages where people cannot afford the quality medical health. The focus is that how can we do a remote health monitoring, and then how can we give an effective solutions to them. So definitely it's more about data, and then how quickly we can give them back with analytics is something is already happening in our eyes, right? And definitely finance also coming up with more engagement to the customers remotely, and then how effectively we can manage our funds happening. Retail, one of the biggest segments in IoT, the first question came in is that I want to move all my touch experience to a non-touch experience. That is basically video, analytics, natural language processing. Some examples what we can cite is that the airports, the ticket printing machines, and in the banks, the check depository kiosks. So everything wanting to move towards non-touch, right? That's more about analytics, customer behavior, and also when you walk into a retail shop, how do we give the best of the digital experience to the customer on their liking, or self-checkout kiosks. You can talk to the checkout kiosk and then complete your transaction without the human intervention. So this is here to stay with the current situation. What I can say is that the data show we have leap forwarded at least 3 years in terms of adoption of technology in the span of only 8 weeks. So that's the impact we are seeing now in the pandemic situation, right? Government, in fact, Anup talked about what are the solutions they have, what are the tools they have, be it a public safety, face mask detection, or social distancing detection, everywhere. So monitoring people and intelligence everywhere. It's again all around push happening from the government side of it. Energy segment talking about remote data management and how do we do a distribution more efficiently. Transport, we all know autonomous vehicle, how this is shaping up, moving towards electric vehicle, and how we can do analytics in increasing their battery cycle time, and then also battery replacement time frame. From industrial side of it, factories are now moving towards how do we automate the factory, people monitoring, also how do we manage the logistics, and also including the lights out projects, how do we manage them remotely, right? So industrial, both predictive and prescriptive analytics, which again Anup gave some of the tools what Rehan can do. It's thinking through that. And overall, you cannot ignore any walk of life which is going to get influenced by AI. And I wanted to spend some time in the education sector of it. Okay, we talked about youngest demography, second largest ecosystem in software, and then so on and so forth. Why India is a growth market? Why India will absorb the technology faster, right? Looking at the importance, CBSE has already adopted AI as an elective subject, and the theory classes starts in the 8th standard itself. And if I'm right, the 10th standard students will have to go through almost 60 hours plus of practical exams, right? So we already seen the kind of projects what they're developing want to resolve their own day-to-day activities, and also for the world. It is just amazing. So the generation, not only the current younger one, also the future engineers are going to play a major role in adopting AI and technology into this life. So um, uh, we cannot ignore a fact that digital everywhere. The fact that we all are sitting here and meeting each other through digital itself is a testimony for that, how quickly the digital life is getting adopted by all of us. Otherwise, we would have all met in a single room and then spent this 1 hour. So that's the impact of the current situation and adoption of technology happening here, right? So with Intel products, with strong partnership like Vehan Partners, we have building blocks starting from the things to all the way up to the cloud. Okay, and with the combination of with hardware and software tools, it makes the development a seamless experience for our customers. So with this, I would like to stop my presentation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dhanapani. It was very, very informative session, and really, it was some of the most important things that you touched upon, especially the aspects of IoT. Take it's a very, very relevant and ask you to take up a question which take ask you to take up a question which is just someone now, and it's a very, very
We have, for example, companies like us do have secured methodologies. How do you transfer the data more secured? One could be on the edge itself, on the hardware itself. You can have security blocks like what Intel has, third-party, trusted party modules, where it can help to protect your data on the device, right? And so on and so forth. So every company who's playing into the IoT analytics are very strongly looking into that. That's why even the protocols are coming to the picture, like how each device can talk, because it is going to be a heterogeneous system. Network has to talk to each other. So definitely data is the biggest concern, and every company is definitely looking into that, and they're coming up with a stronger and stronger tools to help the developers to implement them.
very well said, sir. Very
I
well
hope I
said.
answered the question, but if you have any sub questions, do let me know.
No, sir, it was very well said. And I would also request the guests here today, if you have any queries, the panelists are here. You can keep on dropping them here in the comment box, the chat box, and we'll be happy to take up the questions. Next question is for Mr. Anup Prabhu, and we have a question which is very interesting and very, very pertinent, so as to say. So this question is from Mr. Sunil. I'm sorry, I don't have his title here, but it's just by the name of Mr. Sunil here. And his question is, from your conversations with customers, what are the pervasive industry pain points? So, Mr. Prabhu, sir, if you could take this up.
Yes, Somraj. So the industry pain points vary from different, from vertical to vertical, but there are some key, you know, questions or key points that keep popping up every now and then. One of them is, is coincidentally is very similar to the question that Naveen had asked before, which is, how do you protect the data, and what about the security of the data, that is being processed by all these AI systems. So that is one key, pertinent pain point or key question that comes up from many customers from different verticals. So one easy way to, or one way to address these data privacy issues is to ensure that the solutions have a built-in protocol from the very beginning that, about the way the data is being stored, about how that there is no identification of specific people within the video being processed, or where the data is stored, and so segregation of, of different fields of data, so that even if there is a data breach, it is very difficult for an intruder to piece together different parts of the identity of a one user or specific set of users. The second thing being, wherever data or images etc. are being stored, so industry level encryption and even financial grade encryption should be used in order to make sure that such cases of data breach etc. are protected against. Going further, based on the security or the threat perception of the organization, in the extreme case, all of this compute, processing, storage, all of this can be deployed at at the client premise themselves. So sort of, obviating the need to transfer the data to the cloud, and then, keep it there. So, which in a sense also gives, is sort of mandated by some of the clients or customers who have very high security threat perceptions on their data. The second key pain point or the key aspect that we see whenever we try to pitch an AI solution, especially video-based AI solution to customers, one of them being, and is that currently a lot of solutions are being done in order to address the current pandemic situation. But what happens, let's say, once this pandemic sort of slows down, or once things start going back to normal? So what happens to all of these solutions in that scenario? So so the main takeaway from this, or the way that our offering or platform tries to address this, is that that the platform that we provide is sort of based on an open philosophy, wherein it is analytics driven, in the sense that the hardware that is currently processing one video stream at the edge or at the cloud, so it can process, depending upon the customer need, it can process 2 analytics or 3 analytics. Now, those 3 analytics today could be mask detection and social distancing, maybe 2 of the analytics that are being processed on a particular camera feed. Once let's say the pandemic situation goes down and the need for detecting a mask or a social distancing requirement is not there, the same compute power can be retargeted towards processing a different analytic, which could be more productivity oriented, which could be more efficiency oriented, as in, let's say, queue monitoring, queue management, or turnaround time at, if you're talking of a restaurant scenario, what is the turnaround time at a restaurant table, or how many tables are more commonly utilized versus other tables, how to do product placement better, right? So the analytics, so the AI platform can be sort of retargeted towards these other productivity and efficiency factors once some of the current pandemic related analytic solutions, or the need for that, goes down slightly.
Right.
So these are two points that usually keep coming up.
Right. So thank you very much, Mr. Prabhu. You have very well enunciated these points. So considering the fact that all of us are so concerned about data privacy, and it's one of the most pertinent questions which is often asked. So I would also like to ask, out of my own personal curiosity, Mr. Bhaskar, one question. Sir, considering the fact that the new Data Protection Act is coming into India, and very shortly it will be passed by the Parliament. How do you see that impacting the future of AI solutions in India, and how do you see that impacting the deployment of these solutions, considering the impact of that DPA on the solutions we are proposing? So if you could maybe put forward your few words of wisdom.
Yeah, it's important. In fact, I did not answer Naveen Gupta's question. He also asked about how this can be protected, also considering most of the servers are outside the country. Yeah, government has a big say in this. So uh, putting infrastructure and defining the policy is very, very important for any technology adoption in any location. So government is doing the right thing. Obviously, this is going to give relief to the people when it is done rightly. Okay, and even before that, GDPR, personal data collection, how it has to be governed, it's a big subject for the last few years, right? Like for example, in Intel, it's a pretty big sensitive topic, and including even customers coming to the events, we have to take their consent even to have their email IDs and then reach back to them. So it's also up to the companies, technology companies, or the people who are collecting the data, how effectively they want to do. Of course, the controlling has to come from the governing body, which is the government, which is going the right direction. So I think that should answer some of the questions came in from the audience today.
Sure, sure. Very well said, sir. Mr. Prabhu, there is one question which is very interesting. There is a question which actually talks about whether these proposed AI solutions, whether they can be integrated with the existing BMS systems to reduce hardware requirements and costs. I think with everybody worrying about the cost aspect also. So, sir, if you could maybe give your opinion about this, that would be very helpful.
Right. For February, because it is a thermal camera-based system to detect the body temperature of the users, so that requires a specific hardware which needs to be installed along with the black body in order to be able in order for a system to function seamlessly. But for all of the other solutions, so there is a wide potential to reuse the existing CCTV cameras which are deployed within organizations, which are deployed, let's say, within smart cities, etc., for monitoring normal, regular or outdoor or market areas. So all of those existing CCTV cameras, of course, provided they have a certain minimum, requirement spec in terms of full HD, which is pretty much standard these days, and a certain grade of bandwidth and quality factors. So subject to these basic minimum criteria, so which I would think that most of the cameras installed in the last 4 or 5 years would easily qualify. So most of the existing cameras can actually be retargeted to use in these AI solutions. Of course, the field of view and the positioning, lighting, etc., may have to be adjusted to make the analytic solutions more effective. And I hope that is the question that has been asked, and I'm addressing the right question.
Yes, yes.
Or was there something else with regard to the BMS part?
Basically, Mr. Tarun wanted to know whether, I mean, you have already answered it, but so one thing is the integration of the solutions with the existing BMS systems. Also, whether any additional hardware requirement is there or not. I mean, I think you have addressed that also. So I guess that is taken care of. Also,
so I would just like to add that with regard to integration with BMS systems, so we also have an option of a third-party API SDK for the AI platform, which allows other systems to pull out data from the system, including alerts, events, etc., that have been recorded by the system. Of course, only under due authentication and authorization protocols. But so this allows a consolidation of data as well as other systems also, which have already been deployed at certain institutions, to also make use of the new set of intelligence events that are being detected.
correct, correct. Mr. Bhaskar, sir, there is one query which a couple of people have earlier also discussed, and in some of the other webinars, it keeps on coming up. With the change of the working environment with the introduction of COVID, how has Intel India approached it in a different way? Because we are all seeing that we're all facing many challenges on a day-on-day basis. And how do you see the way forward? I mean, is there any normalization curve that you're looking at, or are you hoping that the things will get better in the next 6 months or a year? So, if you could just throw some light on how you, as an organization, such a big organization, how you are looking at it, that would be very helpful, sir.
Yeah, so Intel's approach is that very clear. The most precious asset are the people, what we have in the country, in the company. So our senior leadership team is very clear that the employee safety is at most interest, and it's okay to be conservative in looking forward how things are going to shape up. So that made things pretty easier, and also um, leadership team also gave a lot of comfort zone to the people that don't worry about the situation, we are here to take care of you, right? So these two things really help the team to people to settle down and then focus on what they can do best, right? And where the critical jobs are there, only those have been brought into the organization by following the all the norms, social distancing and wearing a face mask and stuff. So when it comes to people's safety, we are okay to be very conservative. I think I've answered your question. Is there anything specific you wanted to know?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for the answer, sir. Mr. Anup, sir, there is one question related to February, which came in from, I believe, a user by the name of Ms. Barkha. Her question could also be added with the question recently put forward by Mr. Dinesh. So basically, what they want to know is that number one, whether the February solutions they have been live installed somewhere or not, and what sort of an analytics software are being used for this solution. And secondly, Mr. Dinesh's question is, what is the LPU scalability and configuration? So for example, how many zones and thermal cameras can be added per LPU? So sir, if you could maybe take up these two questions.
Right. Yeah. So to answer the first question of February with regard to so I'll take up the scalability part first and come back to the other
Sure.
question later. So for scalability, so typically wherever February is installed, so it is usually installed at the entry points of buildings or premises or complexes, wherever, let's say today potentially, let's say there is a security guard or an operator who may be actually checking the temperature of the people entering with a handheld thermometer or a handheld forward IR thermometer. So that requires so essentially February is either replacing the guard in that scenario or enabling the monitoring in scenarios where, because of the throughput, such kind of a manual intervention is not really possible. However, because of the need for, let's say, once there is an alert is detected by the system, what does the SOP of the organization specify? Usually, as per standard protocols and as per guidelines by the government, it is recommended that if there is an alert, the specific person has to be sort of quarantined or taken away or re-examined, maybe by a second level examination by a doctor or a second reading done of the system, etc. So because of that requirement, in almost all cases where February is deployed, there is an active operator at the terminal near to the camera itself in most cases, which could be within exactly right next to it or within 5-10 meters. So because of this requirement, it is usually a one-to-one deployment at the LPU level, wherein for one February camera system, there is one operating terminal required. From a software and from a scalability perspective, the software is scalable. However, this practical deployment requirement usually makes it 1:1. Now, coming to the other question about live installations. So as of now, so we have close to about, I think 40 to 50 February cameras have been deployed globally at various locations. Mostly in India, a lot of them in India, at different geographies within India. some in the government, some in private organizations, and some installations have happened globally also, and many more are on the way. I hope I have taken both the questions.
Taken both the questions, sir. I think we just have a couple of more questions. I think it's a question which can be taken up by both Mr. Anup and Mr. Bhaskar, maybe, because it's a question which is concerned with all of us, I guess. It's from Mr. Patel, Sarja Rao Patel, and the question talks about schools, right? So his question is, because the pandemic has affected the children the most, so how can such solutions by Vehant and maybe by even by the sort of platforms Intel has, how can these solutions be catered for the schools so it can help the school children go back to their study rooms more effectively? So sir, maybe both of you can take this up, because I think it's a very, very broad question and all of us may need to have a sort of an understanding of this, right? Mr. Bhaskar, would you like to go first, sir?
Yeah, the question is that working from home, learning from home, how can we make it more interesting for the kids? Is there a question?
Actually, the question, from what I understand, is his question is more to do with what will happen when children will go back to schools. I think it's not the work from home or study from home scenario. His question would more be towards how to make the schools safer for children. So maybe if you could, throw some light upon it.
Yeah, I know Sajira is from Intel. So do you want to answer the questions? Okay, I'll go first. Okay. So yeah, it's one of the example. Let us look at what's happening now. People are talking about IPL restarting on 19th. And I was watching how are they maintaining the social distancing. So they're given a sensor where every player has to hang it around their neck. And then when two people come nearby, and it gives an alert to themselves, and also it gives an alert to the analytics, and saying that the people have to maintain their distance, right? Just an example. But when we go back to school, definitely these measures, like Vehan talked about, social distancing, how can we make sure that people are maintaining that and still, and then that also includes face masks. So, but I hope when they go back to school, we don't have to worry about the pandemic. That's the situation the kids will go to school, first of all, as a parent, even myself, right? To start about that. And how do we make it more interesting? How can we make it more effective? The problem statement is that the best teaching professors or teachers are available in the metros or the top towns. Are we able to get the same quality of education to the remote villages? Is a question we all are looking at it, right? Physically, it's not happening. So how do we make it to the students using the technology what we have? So by adopting smart education methodologies, definitely the student who can get the benefit in being in the city can also get the similar quality of education in the remote areas, right? That's number one. And number two, with analytics, definitely we can make sure that how many students are actually paying attention, are they really understanding, and then accordingly the teacher can intuitively or with the feedback mechanism can always modulate their way of teaching, and then make sure that every student is learning is um, appropriate, right? I think these are two major stuff I could see. We can add many more things by putting, it all depends on how much infra you can put in a school, right? Outside the mature market, they already use wristbands or headbands to know how attentive the student is and how well they are grasping and stuff like that, including smart education methods by using the latest technology. So I think the first 2 points, how do we get the quality of education to the last mile connectivity to the rural areas, and then how adaptively we can change our teaching methods, is something two important points to me personally, and I will pass it to Anup.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Anup, sir, if you would like to add on to some points to this, that would be very good, sir.
So I think Bhaskar has covered most of the points. So I would just like to add that, so while, given that we are offering February thermal monitoring solutions, it is an easy sell, it is very easy for us to pitch our thermal monitoring systems. But I don't think all the schools in the country are going to go for, thermal monitoring systems whenever they reopen, mean, probably the top schools might, but then at least schools in many remote areas and even many schools within the metros, etc., also may not go for these thermal monitoring systems. Of course, some of the schools which already have CCTV monitoring, etc., can make use of these AI-based analytics. But then eventually, many schools will probably not be able to deploy these because of various constraints. So I think this has to be addressed more at a policy level, and also from the perspective of, as Bhaskar mentioned, so in the current scheme of things, while online education is happening, how to make that more effective and more engaging for the students to be more uh, able to learn better in the current scenario while interaction is reduced, etc. And hopefully, eventually this period where schools are closed does not prolong too much beyond beyond a reasonable time.
Right. So thank you very much, Mr. Anup. That was a very important point. And also thank you very much, Mr. Bhaskar. I think the points discussed today were very pertinent, very, very relevant, and definitely the use cases that that you both of you explained so nicely. I'm sure more such innovative use cases will be coming up. Also, we would like to, on behalf of the team here, we would like to thank all the participants who have come today. They have taken time out. It was a good turnout, and we appreciate your time. With that, we'll be closing the session. In case of any other questions, please feel free to drop an email at pilem@vihan.com, and we'll be happy to take them up. Once again, thank you, Mr. Bhaskar. Thank you, Mr. Anup, for taking time out and speaking. And I wish all of you a good day. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye and take care.
Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.